What up guys, we're back at the workshop today working on a new project here. This car and me actually go quite a way back. I've been involved with this car for probably over a decade. This car used to be my Class B challenge car. Back in the day this car was blue. I think I built it in 2009 if I memory is correct. I started racing GTI Challenge in 2008 and I was racing a two-door Mark 1, a good old GL body, small tail lights, chrome bumpers, a couple of those things I changed, put these bigger bumpers on and tried to make it look a little bit more modern. But I wrecked that car in my second season of racing in 2009 and I had a 2001 City Life sitting on the sidelines, which was my backup car, and I had like 90% of the roll cage in it. Anyway, that car I then rebuilt my engine and wiring harness and all my bits and pieces suspension into that, and I raced it for another 8 years or something. I eventually sold the car in 2015 to another guy. He raced it for about a year and a half, almost 2 years, and he wrecked the car with like 2 races to go at the end of that season. Long story short, I bought it back and I re-chassied it into this chassis and sold it to my mate Daniel. Obviously we downgraded it because Daniel wanted a Class C car, so we downgraded the brakes and the engine and whatnot and made it Class C legal. And obviously Daniel and I are pretty good mates, and last year we had our enduro race, so there's a couple of videos on the Facebook page where I ended up crashing the car on Tuesday in official practice or unofficial practice. So we had to then work through the night to get the nose. So you can see it's still carrying some battle scars, the bumper's a bit scuffed. Daniel's already changed the bonnet because the other bonnet, the hinges, it wouldn't bolt on at the hinges because the thread's stripped, so he's just popped another bonnet on that we can get the car back to the shop. So yeah, anyway, we built a new motor for the car after the endurance race and we went out testing it, and it seems we had a failure on the rear main seal. At this point that's what we think it is, so the gearbox has to come out now, and I just want to check if it is the rear main seal or if we've got a sump gasket, because obviously in these cars we run baffled sumps to prevent oil slosh, and then we also run windage, what they call a windage tray, which is basically a tray around the crank to stop the oil splashing up onto the crank, and obviously any oil that the crank's got to run through would slow it down. So that one kind of keeps the splash away from the crank so that it can spin as freely as possible. And then obviously the windage tray keeps the, sorry, not the windage tray, the baffle sump keeps the oil concentrated around the pickup of the oil pump. So that way you don't, when you're going through a corner, have all the oil slosh away from the pump and then run bearings in the motor. Okay guys, as you can see we've got the gearbox out, got the flywheel and clutch plate off, and there's the center for the pressure plate fingers, taken that plate off as well. One of the biggest problems here is now trying to get this loose. You've actually got to jam up the motor. So if you've got 2 hands, you can probably get someone to hang on the crank bolt on the cam bolt side of the motor. That does work, but when you're man alone, I've devised my little niggle here, or my little way of doing it. So I take an 8mm Allen key, pop it in the starter motor bolt hole, and then I use a spark plug socket. You'll see there's a dowel pin groove here. This car runs a single dowel flywheel, so you've only got one to choose from. On the older model one you've got 2 pins. So, and then yeah, I just put it, so I know it's a little dark in here, but yeah, I just lock the socket into that groove, and that then allows you to loosen up all these bolts to get the pressure plate off. Oh, now I dropped the gearbox bolt anyway. So yeah, once these are all loose, you can obviously remove the locking pin, and that will allow us to get the pressure plate off and then get to the rear main seal that is more than likely our headache on this particular car. Okay guys, so I got the rear main seal out. It does look like it's a bit dicey, so yeah, definitely that is our oil leak. I think what I'm going to do as well is, obviously I've had to break the sump seal here. I think I'm also going to just drop the sump and give it normally you wouldn't have to give these things a bit of sealer, but this obviously being a windage tray, they're a bit more expensive, and they don't get replaced as often as just a normal sump gasket. So I'm just going to put some gasket maker on there just to obviously help try to seal it, and then I've also bought a new one, new rear main seal. The problem we had when we fitted this last time is this was a second-hand unit. We were assembling on a Sunday, none of the stores were open, so this was used. But this is one where if you give it a push on here and you push it out, you can see that the gasket has like a frame to it almost. It's not like a normal one where you just get a loose ring gasket and push it in. And that was the problem. Daniel had gone and bought the loose ring one, but the housing we had is this whole molded together MacGyver. So we've actually bought a complete unit like this, so will be no pushing gaskets in and whatnot. It's a complete unit like this, brand new, so I'm going to pop that one on here now, and that should solve that problem. This thing can go in the bin. So yeah, we'll replace that, and then like I said, I'll just reseal the sump as well. Obviously on track we don't want to have any oil spills and that. The oil obviously gets on the surface. There's bikes that race on race days with us as well, so you don't want to be dropping oil, because I mean if those come off, they break bones. Whereas if we slide off, we slide into a wall or a tyre wall, but again it's still damage to the cars. So what we want to do is obviously get this rear main seal and oil leak sorted out. Once that's done, he's got a dictator management system, so we're going to wire that in. And then this weekend we're scheduled to go to the Dyno. He's picked the Dyno out in Takai. So I said to him, best hire a trailer if we can get the car there, because it's a good 35 kilometers from where we are now. So yeah, anyway, he's booked that and he wants the car tuned there, so we'll go off there. But yeah, anyway, let's get this rear main seal and start putting this thing back together, drop the sump, seal that up, and mechanically get the car back together, then we can move over to the wiring. Okay, so here is the rear main seal, fresh out of the packaging. As you can see, it's the same construction as the old one, where it's a one-piece unit. It doesn't come with a separate gasket inside the housing, so this is all molded together. It's already got a bit of a nick in it. Okay, that's just the foam covering. So yeah, obviously it comes with a nice little fitting here which allows you to push it on without damaging the seals. So pretty nifty. But yeah, we'll get going with this now and get it on. Okay guys, so at this point I have replaced the rear main seal. It's all bolted up, gave it a light coating of sealer along the rubber gasket. So that's on there. Then I've dropped the sump, which is obviously here, and then it has the windage tray, which is this unit over here. So basically this goes on over there, and it basically keeps the any turbulent oil away from the crank. So obviously if you compare it to like running in a swimming pool, obviously there's liquid in the way and it stops your legs from moving fairly quickly. Same sort of thing happens here. If the crank is having to run through oil, it slows it down. So this is basically just like a splash guard. So if the car is being whipped around on the track and the oil's bouncing around it doesn't inhibit the crank from spinning and obviously sapping power from the engine. So that's the theory behind this thing. And then obviously in the sump there are baffles with like doors on them, basically little gates. So when the car surges one way, the oil, if the car turns to the right, then the oil wants to surge to the left. So it's got a little gate there that stops it. But the oil coming from the right side will obviously, with gravity feed, both doors open inward. So when you surge when the oil wants to surge to the left, the outer door locks and the inner door opens. So whatever's on the inside on the right side, which wants to run towards the pump, can, and vice versa. So when you turn the other way, it locks the outgoing door and opens the incoming door. So it keeps the oil at the center where the pickup is. Okay guys, I've got the sump off here, and as you can see inside, it's got these plates welded in, and then it's got these hinge doors with stoppers. So basically, obviously this bulge is in the front side of the car, and obviously the straight edges are along the back side. So if you're cornering through a right-hander, then obviously the sump, the oil all runs that way, and you can see that door then opens over there. That door's swinging open, and the back one, the one on the other side's closed, so you can see it's pooling the little bit of oil that's left there. And when you turn it the other way, it pulls the oil there. So basically that's the theory behind it. It keeps the oil in the center here, and obviously if you look at the engine here, those gates sit about there and there, and it keeps the pickup full of oil. So the theory is that then the car then doesn't run out of oil and doesn't run bearings. And actually they work pretty well. I've run a few road cars around the track, and then you get oil surge and the oil buzzer starts going crazy. Once you fit these, you can actually run a lot less oil in the motor. Normally when you track down a car, you've got to put about an extra litre in these type of motors. With these things, you can probably run about 500 mils less than the average road car, and it doesn't run out of oil. So